It's the year 2008, and the world is on the brink of a financial revolution. In the midst of economic uncertainty, a mysterious figure emerges from the shadows, a name that would come to symbolize both innovation, intrigue, and controversy. Satoshi Nakamoto, the mastermind behind the creation of the most revolutionary currency, Bitcoin. Armed with the latest evidence, we aim today to go beyond mere speculation and theories about Satoshi, striving to uncover the true identity that has remained a mystery until this very day. In the year 2008, when the banks considered too big to fail were bailed out with U.S. taxpayer money and the global economy was on the brink of collapse. In this year of uncertainty, fear, and crisis, a white paper titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, surfaced on the scene, signed by Satoshi Nakamoto, an anonymous entity. This wasn't just any paper. It was a blueprint for a new kind of currency, digital, decentralized, and independent of any government or institution. It meant that for the first time, people could exchange money directly with each other, anywhere in the world, without needing a bank or any middleman. Then came January 3rd, 2009, another extraordinary day when the first Bitcoin was mined. This event marked the official birth of Bitcoin. The anonymous Satoshi Nakamoto mined the first block, known as the Genesis block. It embedded a message that reads, "The Times, 03 January 2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks." It was a clear statement of purpose to criticize the financial crisis and the failures of the traditional banking system. But the real test of Bitcoin was passed when Satoshi Nakamoto made his first transaction. This transaction proved that Bitcoin worked in reality. And soon, it became an unstoppable phenomenon. As Bitcoin began to grow in popularity, it started challenging the traditional financial system, exposing its weaknesses and evils. And behind this groundbreaking invention was the anonymous Satoshi Nakamoto, alluring the world into the biggest mystery of the 21st century. Who is Satoshi Nakamoto? This question has intrigued people ever since. To solve this mystery, we have to know why Satoshi Nakamoto planned to conceal his true identity in the first place to build the first, truly decentralized currency. Or, you can put it this way, why countless individuals and corporate giants with all the resources, fame, power, and knowledge in the world failed to create what Satoshi did. Satoshi is revered not only as a genius, but also hailed as a messiah by many communities who have challenged the hegemony of the current financial system and its evils, such as hyperinflation, financial instability, recurring financial crises, and unchecked governmental control over money. In an insightful account from the book The Bitcoin Standard, the decentralized alternative to central banking sheds light on the fundamental issues that have plagued the current fiat currency, which relies on government guarantees and is subjected to the whims of central banks. As a result, it's the common people who suffer the consequences. For instance, in the year 2000, we used to purchase a loaf of bread for $1, but today, that same loaf of bread costs $5 due to the government's excessive printing of money over the years. This has led to the silent erosion of our savings, consistent inflation, and financial instability. Consider the events of the 2008 financial crisis when banks deemed too big to fail were bailed out with U.S. taxpayer money, while ordinary citizens had to bear the consequences of the fallout, losing homes, jobs, and savings. This was the pinnacle of the crisis, which demanded an alternative monetary system. And Bitcoin's lack of central control by any single entity like the government, banks, or even individuals was the missing piece required for it to become the ideal currency. This decentralized digital currency is what we call peer-to-peer currency. And to create this peer-to-peer currency, it was imperative to maintain only a single point of protocol without an ounce of influence from any single person, hierarchy, or system. Therefore, Satoshi had to plan to hide his identity to create such a marvel. You might be wondering, how can a digital currency operate without the oversight of central authorities such as central banks, or, in the US, we call it the Federal Reserve? Central banks play a crucial role in validating transactions and maintaining ledgers. Think of it like this. If you try to send $100 to a friend, but you only have $80 in your account, the bank will flag it as an invalid transaction and reject it. However, if you have enough funds, say $150, the bank will validate the transaction, adjust your remaining balance, and update the ledger accordingly. But with Bitcoin, it's a whole different process. Instead of relying on a central authority like a bank, Bitcoin transactions are verified by a decentralized network of computers worldwide. Anyone can join this network by downloading the Bitcoin software, effectively becoming a part of the decision-making process. These computers, or we can refer to them as nodes, act as independent validators for transactions. But they don't just rubber stamp transactions. Instead, they have to solve complex computational puzzles using a proof-of-work system called Hashcash. This Hashcash system was originally designed to combat email spam and cyber attacks, but now it is also used to ensure the legitimacy of Bitcoin transactions. To add another layer of security, each transaction is encrypted using cryptography, making them immutable to tampering or fraud. After a certain number of transactions, a new ledger is created that links back to the previous ledger, forming a chain of blocks. This is what we now know as blockchain technology. This whole blockchain technology is the backbone of Bitcoin. What's remarkable is that this clever system doesn't rely on any central authority or governing body. Instead, it's governed by a protocol, a set of rules that dictate how the system must operate. And to ensure this decentralization nature of Bitcoin, no single entity can control or influence the protocol, not even its creator. This is precisely why Bitcoin's creator Satoshi Nakamoto chose to remain anonymous. However, this quest for peer-to-peer digital money is not a new concept. Many visionaries have attempted to materialize this digital form of currency, but none have succeeded until Satoshi made the final stroke. Mark Andreessen is among them, the owner of the largest VC firm A16Z, renowned for investing in startups like Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. Mark was an early advocate for a Bitcoin-like currency but hesitated to pursue the endeavor. Instead, he pioneered Netscape, the first internet browser allowing credit card transactions. Before that, it was hard to even imagine online transactions. It was indeed a crucial step toward digitizing the economy, yet falling short of creating a truly decentralized currency. The reason why he was not able to achieve this was that, just like other serial entrepreneurs, Mark had a huge appetite for control, filing patents, and corporatization, all of which conflicted with the decentralized nature of Bitcoin, as it required someone willing to relinquish ego, a trait not aligned with Mark's approach. Even Elon Musk and Peter Thiel originally intended to create a decentralized, peer-to-peer digital currency. Peter said, to use phones to manage our own money and do payments, so that governments would not be able to stop it without taking down the entire internet. However, they ended up creating PayPal, which acts just like a centralized digital bank, transferring US dollars back and forth. This is because Elon Musk and Peter Thiel didn't want to lose influence or take the risk of losing their fortune by challenging the existing financial order. On the other hand, Satoshi purposefully sacrificed his potential fortune. In March 2024, Bitcoin was at its all-time high value, reaching over $73,000 and potentially making Nakamoto the 15th richest person globally with an estimated net worth of over $80 billion. Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, even proposed the creation of a digital currency called Libra and announced it in 2019. Unlike Bitcoin, Mark pegged its value to a basket of stable assets such as national currencies and government bonds. However, he faced significant regulatory scrutiny and pushback from governments around the world because if he followed the governmental regulations and protocols, it wouldn't be a decentralized currency anymore. He has already rebranded the project as Diem, but couldn't escape the dilemma. These cases strengthen our argument that the sacrifice of personal identity, influence, fame, and fortune was imperative for the creation of Bitcoin. Thus, neither Mark Andreessen, Elon Musk, nor Mark Zuckerberg succeeded in their quest to develop a truly decentralized peer-to-peer currency. Many believe that Bitcoin wasn't the work of just a single person, but rather a collective effort. Dan Kaminsky, a renowned security researcher who studied Bitcoin's code, speculated that Nakamoto was either a team of people or simply a genius. However, both cases are true in a sense, because Bitcoin's emergence was not sudden, but it had a slow and deliberate genesis. Similar to other great inventions, it is the pinnacle of all the breakthroughs in crypto technology. The groundwork for Bitcoin was laid years before its inception. Dr. David Chaum, often hailed as the godfather of cryptocurrency, proposed an electronic cash system back in the 1980s. His project eventually evolved into eCash, one of the earliest forms of digital currency. For the first time in history, eCash introduced the concept of digital money, enabling secure transactions through the use of cryptography. Though revolutionary, it still relied on a central entity to manage and verify transactions, a limitation Bitcoin would ultimately overcome. The next milestone was the birth of the Hashcash system in 1997. Dr. Adam Back, a British cryptographer, initially designed Hashcash as a proof-of-work system to combat spam emails. This system required senders to solve computational puzzles to verify their identity. This groundbreaking proof-of-work system laid the groundwork for the decentralized consensus mechanism that Bitcoin would use in the years to come to validate its transactions. Dr. Adams' work showcased computational effort as a clever means to validate digital actions. Building upon this concept, Wei Dai proposed B-Money, a system where participants can maintain a collective ledger of all transactions secured by proof of work. The concept of B-Money introduced several ideas central to cryptocurrencies. Two of these ideas were the creation of money through computational work and a decentralized transaction ledger. Nick Szabo's BitGold went a step further, aiming to create a digital currency that could mimic the properties of gold, scarce, easily transferable, and without the need for a central authority. BitGold proposed using a proof-of-work mechanism to create a digital property that could be time-stamped and secured. However, like B-Money, BitGold remained a concept and was never implemented. Nonetheless, it tackled the problem of trust in digital transactions, a challenge that Bitcoin would later address. All these precursors were revolutionary, laying the technical and philosophical foundations for a decentralized currency. However, they each fell short of creating a perfect decentralized monetary system. eCash relied on a central authority, while B-Money and BitGold were decentralized in theory, but never materialized. Bitcoin succeeded where these projects did not, by solving the double spending problem without a central authority, using a peer-to-peer network. Satoshi Nakamoto's genius was in combining the proof-of-work mechanism with a decentralized ledger to create the blockchain, which records all transactions across a network of computers. This innovation made Bitcoin the first truly decentralized digital currency. All these visionaries David Chaum, Adam Back, Wei Dai, and Nick Szabo contributed to the creation of Bitcoin directly or indirectly. Perhaps this collaborative effort is why the real founder of Bitcoin chose to remain hidden behind the mask of Satoshi Nakamoto. But that's just one side of the story, and we are here to uncover who the elusive person or group behind the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto is. The enigmatic individual or individuals whose identity remains hidden even from the most powerful agencies like the CIA and NSA. All we have are scattered clues and fragmented pieces that we will assemble to solve the puzzle. Although Satoshi Nakamoto is a Japanese name, our analysis suggests otherwise. The timestamps of Satoshi's Bitcoin forum posts and emails reveal an intriguing pattern. There's a significant decline in his activity to almost none between 5 a.m. and 11 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. This corresponds to 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Japan Standard Time. This indicates quite an unusual sleep pattern for someone living in Japan. This analysis suggests that Satoshi, whether an individual or a group, may have been located in Northern California and Europe at various times. Satoshi's public activities abruptly ceased in April 2011 when he informed the Bitcoin community that he had moved on to other things and he won't be around much longer. While this could indicate that Satoshi's work on Bitcoin had been completed and was a calculated move to ensure Bitcoin's decentralization by removing its figurehead, still, speculation about his death persists. Further investigation into the language used provides more clues. The use of British English in both source code comments and forum postings, phrases like bloody hard, suggest a potential English or Commonwealth origin. This preference for British English, coupled with the sophisticated use of technical jargon and a clear understanding of economic principles, suggests that this individual or group not only has a profound awareness of the global financial system, but also has a deep understanding of cryptography, likely through academic affiliation. Nick Szabo is American, whereas Dr. Adam Back is British. Is it possible Satoshi has been a combination of these two individuals? Both of them have apparently denied being Satoshi. However, such denial must be taken with a grain of salt. To discover the truth, we must examine the top 5 contenders we've shortlisted. The first on our list is Dr. Adam Back, a renowned cryptographer, celebrated for his groundbreaking creation of Hashcash, introduced as a revolutionary proof-of-work system. This system was initially designed to validate emails, but later laid the very foundation of blockchain technology, which serves as the cornerstone for the development of Bitcoin. He was inspired by the work of David Chaum. Could it be possible that Dr. Adam embarked on new ventures after the successful invention of Hashcash and started to work on developing Bitcoin? Undoubtedly, Dr. Adam is a genius with academic excellence in distributed systems and cryptography. His name even finds mention in Satoshi's original white paper, further fueling speculation about his potential role in Bitcoin's genesis. Additionally, Dr. Adam was the second person to receive an email from Satoshi and engaged in correspondence with him regarding the Bitcoin project. He is definitely one of the early pioneers in Bitcoin's development. However, discrepancies in Dr. Adam's work activities and timestamps raise doubts about his candidacy as Satoshi. Although he is English, he never lived in California, which could be a disqualifying factor. Moreover, Dr. Adam himself has openly denied being Satoshi. Without concrete evidence to validate him as Satoshi, uncertainties persist. But don't worry, among the following candidates lies the individual who may indeed be the elusive Satoshi, and we will present compelling evidence to support this claim. The next on our list is Dorian Satoshi Nakamoto, who is a Japanese-American man living in California, and his birth name is Satoshi Nakamoto. Coincidence? Let's find out. Nakamoto has worked as a systems engineer on classified defense projects and as a computer engineer for technology and financial information services companies. Dorian was laid off twice in the early 1990s and thereby turned libertarian. He even encouraged his daughter to start her own business and work not under the government's thumb. These principles resonate with the ideals of the pseudonym Satoshi. Could this be the motivation to create such a revolutionary currency like Bitcoin and disrupt the controlled financial system? In his initial interviews, he appeared to confirm his identity as the founder of Bitcoin, saying, "I am no longer involved in that, and I cannot discuss it. It's been turned over to other people. They are in charge of it now. I no longer have any connection." This statement ignited widespread media attention. However, later, the first message in 5 years was posted by the pseudonymous Satoshi on his peer-to-peer foundation account saying, "I am not Dorian Nakamoto." In the subsequent full-length interview, he denied all his connections from Bitcoin. "I have nothing to do with Bitcoin, nothing to do with developing. I was just an engineer doing something else."
The main reason I'm here is to clear my name that I have nothing to do with Bitcoin, nothing to do with developing. I was just an engineer doing something else.
While this denial may seem expected if someone seeks to conceal their true identity, yet, based on his background work and his lack of expertise in cryptography, no one questions him to be the founder of Bitcoin. Hal Finney, an American computer scientist and prominent cryptographer, stands out as the strongest contender for the pseudonymous identity of Satoshi. Many even believe that Hal is the pseudonymous Satoshi, as he had long been using remailers, which is a private communication protocol that employs pseudonymous names. He contributed significantly to troubleshooting and testing Bitcoin, and unquestionably ranks among the pioneers. Remarkably, he was also the recipient of the first 10 Bitcoins from Satoshi, and the transaction is etched in the blockchain of Bitcoin. Is it possible that Hal purposefully used this pseudonym to hide his true identity? The argument gets even more compelling when considering that Dorian Nakamoto lived in Hal's neighborhood, so it's quite possible that Hal was faking his neighbor's name to disguise. Tragically, Hal passed away in 2014 due to complications from ALS, 3 years after the last activity was observed from Satoshi's account. This timing might explain Satoshi's disappearance. However, others argue that Hal's condition would have made it increasingly difficult for him to continue the extensive work required. After all, who could keep a secret better than someone who has passed away? Despite these connections, Hal himself has firmly denied being Satoshi. His writing patterns are distinctly American, contrasting with the English writing style typically associated with Satoshi's communications. Moreover, the idea that Hal created a pseudonym of Satoshi and engaging in communication with himself for troubleshooting and testing purposes seems both crazy and extremely cumbersome. Nevertheless, it wouldn't be surprising if the creator of Bitcoin went that far to maintain anonymity. Before drawing any conclusions regarding Hal, let's move forward and evaluate other potential candidates. There is considerable speculation surrounding Nick Szabo's potential identity as Satoshi. Nick is an accomplished cryptographer and is well known for his enthusiasm for decentralized currency. He authored a seminal paper on BitGold, advocating for a decentralized currency characterized by scarcity, security, and the ability to be electronically transferred without the need for traditional financial intermediaries like banks. The concept of BitGold is viewed by many as a direct precursor to Bitcoin, laying the foundational ideas that would be materialized in Bitcoin's creation. Is it possible that Nick extended his vision and continued his work under the guise of Satoshi Nakamoto and brought Bitcoin to life? Satoshi once hinted at his own identity by indicating that his initials would be used for his first Bitcoin transaction. The initials were NS, which aligned with Nick Szabo's name. This added weight to the speculation of his potential involvement. However, it's important to consider that in many Asian countries, initials are often reversed. Thus, NS could simply represent Satoshi Nakamoto. This casts doubt on Nick's connection with the case. On the other hand, we already know that based on his profile, Satoshi was not Japanese. Finally, our last contender is Les Sassaman, who is a notable cypherpunk, cryptographer, and advocate for piracy. He played an instrumental role in developing various cryptographic protocols, including BitTorrent and key encryption. Despite living in Northern California, Len also pursued an academic career in Belgium, working directly under David Chaum, who is considered the godfather of cryptocurrency. Does the alignment of Satoshi's activity timeline with Len's residences in San Francisco and later in Belgium hint at a potential correlation with Satoshi? Len's online presence strengthens this argument further. He often used phrases like bloody hard when expressing frustration with phone services and employed the spelling grey when discussing his gray beard. These linguistic clues closely match the language patterns attributed to Satoshi. Satoshi's final message, posted in December 2010 and online until April 2011, seemed to foreshadow his departure, stating that there's more work to be done, but that Bitcoin is in good hands. It felt as though Satoshi was bidding farewell to the world. Tragically, Len passed away on July 3, 2011, at the age of 31, after battling severe depression and a lifelong neurological disorder. Could Len's demise explain Satoshi's sudden cessation of activity since April 2011? Let's cut to the chase. By now, we've uncovered that Satoshi Nakamoto might be either a group of people or a single individual. As a group, Satoshi represents the collective efforts of many individuals whose work culminated in the creation of Bitcoin. It wouldn't be fair for one person to claim all the credit. However, the real mystery lies in the identity of the individual behind Satoshi Nakamoto. It seems highly probable that Len Sassaman may have played a significant role in the creation, co-creation, or development of Bitcoin, but we can't definitively assert his identity as Satoshi Nakamoto. Although Dr. Adam, Hal Finney, and Nick Szabo were strong contenders, differences in their academic writing styles compared to Satoshi's further add to our previous arguments and disqualify them as Satoshi. After developing various cryptographic protocols and key encryptions, Len could have possibly presented his white paper on Bitcoin. He had already been working under David Chaum to learn from the creator of eCash. Later, he collaborated with Hal and Dr. Adam to bring his cryptocurrency project to life. Len and Hal collaborated on remailers, so it is very possible that Len adopted the name of Hal's neighbor to conceal his identity. However, following the passing of Len and Hal, there was no one left to confirm Satoshi's true identity, leaving it shrouded in mystery. It almost seems like a work of fiction that someone could remain anonymous for years, create a new monetary system that solves previously unsolvable economic problems, and then make the ultimate sacrifice and vanish from existence. Satoshi's departure from the Bitcoin scene appears to have been very carefully planned, perhaps accelerated due to his health conditions. He left Bitcoin as the fairest form of currency, controlled not by any individual entity, but by the people themselves, making Bitcoin inevitable. Bitcoin stands out as the most promising currency mankind has ever witnessed, offering protection against many evils of fiat currency, especially when manipulated by governing authorities like central banks and governments. It ingeniously addresses the inflation problem through scarcity, reminiscent of the classical gold standard era. Unlike traditional central banks, which have a sneaky habit of printing excessive money, Bitcoin has a fixed supply cap of 21 million coins, rendering it immune to inflation. Perhaps the biggest impact of Bitcoin is its potential reshaping of the political economy. Throughout history, the economy has often been used as a tool by political actors and corporate entities. Corporate lobbies and international financial institutions wield considerable influence over governments, shaping monetary policies to serve the interests of a few at the expense of the masses. However, while Bitcoin's cryptographic framework provides robust security for transactions, the ecosystem is not immune to security breaches. Exchange hacks, wallet vulnerabilities, and phishing scams have resulted in significant losses for users. According to a report by CipherTrace, cryptocurrency-related thefts, scams, and fraud amounted to over $4.5 billion in 2019 alone. Bitcoin operates in a regulatory gray area in many jurisdictions, with governments struggling to define its legal status and develop appropriate regulatory frameworks. Uncertainty regarding taxation, compliance requirements, and government crackdowns can create challenges for Bitcoin users and businesses, leading to potential legal risks and disruptions in the financial ecosystem. Furthermore, Bitcoin mining, the process by which new Bitcoins are created and transactions are validated, consumes vast amounts of energy. According to the Cambridge Bitcoin Electricity Consumption Index, Bitcoin's annual energy consumption is comparable to that of countries like Argentina and the Netherlands. Critics argue that Bitcoin's energy-intensive mining process contributes to environmental degradation and exacerbates climate change. Lastly, unlike traditional financial systems, Bitcoin transactions are irreversible, and users have limited recourse in the event of disputes or fraudulent activities. The absence of consumer protections, such as chargebacks or insurance, forever leaves users vulnerable to scams, thefts, and other forms of financial loss. All this has made Bitcoin inevitable now, and its inevitability is deeply rooted in Satoshi's visionary decision to prioritize the protocol over personal gain or influence. By choosing to remain anonymous and silently stepping away from the scene, Satoshi ensured that Bitcoin's success would be determined by the integrity of its underlying protocols rather than the actions of any central authority.